Okay, welcome back. And this morning I want to get into, I've been on The Witcher, and this is a great series. I'm really feeling season 4 and how it came out. And I wanted to get into some important scenes from, season 2, Welcome Lee. I want to get into some important scenes from episode 2. And I really like the way that this episode starts because we get some great action. And the first thing we come into is this wraith scene. So this is after the initial intro, and it kind of starts kind of rough. That you see the whole crew, and this is him kind of like exploring his new crew, right? He's got this whole new crew that's rolling with him, but it's same old Witcher type of creatures. And this is a great one, like with all the political intrigue that goes on. Kind of seems like they would get lost in doing keeping the supernatural creatures alive, but they do a great job. And they start off with this great scene of him having to fight this wraith, and you can see this is the new crew, and you can see this wraith manifest. And this is an absolutely terrifying creature. And what the wraith is important for is that all these creatures are really symbolic. And there's a part where Geralt says it in, I think it's episode 3, when he talks about, if they could ever really get rid of all the monsters, right? Like making him, obsolete. And what he says is that people create these monsters. Humans don't want to accept accountability for drinking too much or beating their wives or just being crappy people. So there's always going to be plenty of monsters around. And he doesn't kill. This is a great scene. Overall, it's just a great scene. This is everything that you want from Witcher, right? It's the new crew is involved in it, right? He's at everybody. This wraith is an amazing creature. And another creature that Geralt doesn't want to kill, right? He does not want to kill this creature, right? Which kind of remains consistent with his belief about certain creatures, about monsters in general. And this creature kind of really becomes an important part. That's him. You can see how powerful this creature is. It's literally got the bard trapped, like they're gonna drag him to hell. And this is where this other crew really starts to show how useful they are. That no one runs. They're really bonded. And she's gonna help the bard, her and the new dwarf guy, so they start to prove themselves, and this is a real threat for them. But this is an important moment because this wraith serves a function beyond just an animal that he has to fight, right? This wraith kind of serves as his mirror, as far as Geralt's mirror. Again, this is embodying unrestrained chaos. That's what this wraith is. Now, Geralt manages to stay very calm, and it shows his mastery over fear and his own natural instincts. Now, in this particular scene, when you go and watch this, the fight sequence is really good because this scene itself kind of defines order within this chaos because of its visual style. And the lighting and sound operate very well. You get this contrast between the mist and the movement. And sound-wise, there's not a lot to the score when you listen to it. I'm watching the scene now. There's not a lot to the score. And that's kind of rare for this show. Usually they use a lot of pacing to keep the story going. They don't do very much of that. So this is kind of a statement, right? There's minimum scoring, and you're really carried by the rhythmic sounds of the battle. That's what you really get. So it kind of isolates you into what these guys are getting. And this is a terrible battle because they could really lose. Like, they're actually facing real consequences here. And finally, you see when he does what he has to do, he kind of neutralizes the wraith, not because he chooses to, not because, again, it's kind of that kind of scenario where he chooses to still give what mercy he can for this wraith. And this is a real moment where you can see him connecting with these creatures, because this is where Geralt really lives. He's in between, humanity and these actual creatures. So when he looks in this moment, when these two creatures are eye to eye, this is a real moment. This is a real, shattering when he destroys this creature, because he has to look her. He at least gives her the courtesy of looking her in the eyes. Now this scene runs about 3 minutes long. I think it goes from roughly it's roughly a 3-minute scene. About 3:41 it starts, and then it's over, right? So 3 minutes of real action that tells a lot about, one, what I felt like I got out of it was reinforcing his position within this whole order, right? And how he's ultimately a part of it. And there's a symbolic statement, like his stillness versus the wrath's frenzy is really what it's all about. Now, there's some foreshadowing that about chaos linking the sword and the spell and these primary disciples. So what I really get out of this thing is that we establish who Geralt is, and that is he's equilibrium as this Witcher. He's a killer without malice, and that's actually what makes him extremely important. The Wraith itself represents one of the 4 elementals of Earth, right? This grounding principle. And this principle is going to be important later as we get deeper in the series, especially if you're going to watch this all in one sit. There's a couple things that you want to grab. And this idea of the 4 elements, like they're really going back into the lore of the series. So this was a great scene to kind of get us started. And it's a good action scene. So if you're checking the temperature, the metabolic rate of this episode, it starts you all high. And what he says, there's a couple of lines that he delivers where he says, in talking about the Wraith, that she wasn't a monster, that she was suffering. So in his ideology, he really just cured her of her suffering. And this is how we kind of ramp into this episode, like a reminder of the lore, a reminder of his positioning, and then just a good ass scrap, right? It's a feel good moment for everybody, right? And that takes us right into this scene with Cyril, because we're still tracking where she's going, right? Like, this is important because she's going through a big change herself. So we get this scene here, and this is going to be the scene. It happens right after it. So, and what we're going to witness here is her working with the rats for the first time. So we get a deep understanding of how the rats operate, right? And we see the scene here, and this is the distraction part of the crew. So we're seeing them as raw as they get. And no spoiler alerts on the rats, but this will be important of defining them, like where they are. They have this reputation, and this is her really joining. So she's kind of joining in this youth rebellion. Why this youth rebellion matters is because this is the arc of Ciri. This is when she starts to leave, she's a different person. And she's observing it, right? They're explaining everything to her. And remember her arc. She goes from being this princess. This was castle life. And it's kind of funny, like, in this story, she was going from her royal lineage truly into this chaos. I think it's kind of funny because they do play her as having this, like, early on, it's I can't get out of this castle, right? I can't stay, I'm sneaking out so I can go be among regular citizens or regular kids all the time. And now she's got it. You got it full time. This is definitely a be careful what you wish for type of scenario, because now you got it and you living out here full time. So we're watching the entire crew, right, kind of getting together, and you see her really observing. And the other guy is kind of explaining everything to her as these guys are creating the distraction, right? This is the distraction. The other guys are moving, right? She's picking the lock. So they got some skill together. Hey, welcome, Dino. Welcome to join in. So we're just breaking down, episode 2 of The Witcher. And this is, again, like, the distraction keeps going. So they do work as a crew. So we see some cohesiveness out of them. And she finally gets access. So she's got her own thing, or these 3 have got their thing going while the distraction's going on in the middle of town. And they're about that life. This is really, really, like the early signs. If you were a D&D player, you understood the Thieves Guild, how they operate. Once they have the guard fully engaged, then she gets after it too, right? So they're all going out, and there's like, what, 6 of them in there. So they're seeing everything go well. So this is a really good scene, and she's learning. This is Surreal, or now Falca, because she's developing this whole different persona. And so this is her kind of really, this is grimy. Like, these kids are really taking on danger. She's not out just gambling with the boys like she used to. This is full on. So in her character arc, this is kind of like her developing as a part of this. She becomes part of this trickster brand. And, the stuff that they do is, it's crazy because, like, this one here, they show some real character flaws, right? Like, this is it right here, right? Oh, let's see if I gotta go back. Right? What he's got is some powder substance, right? Which we're gonna assume is cocaine. So this kind of shows what her weakness is, right? So while everyone else trying to get money, right? Welcome, Somali, to the show, right? So this shows a lot about this character here, and it'll be a flaw later. So this guy, he's the brain. So you see her for Siri Falca, we're seeing this integration of her 2 parts. And they weren't right. So again, this crew is, they're pretty good. They're getting the goods, right? This one's getting some coke. And ultimately, this is where it starts to go. Now you see, this is a problem. Because of her vice, now the whole plan starts getting messed up, right? Because he's the town tax collector, and now he's hollering out thief, which to them is still kind of funny, right? So now it's on. So this isn't just, right? This isn't just a smooth like they would like it to be. They're still in the process, so they're still facing a lot of danger. But you get to see how, like, they have some skill. This guy's gonna blow this whole one. And in this, there would also be a mistake here. So they're doing a lot of these things because they feel good, but there would be a lot of mistakes that go on here. So he blows up the door so they can start. They got to get the hell up out of here because everybody knows, despite all their stealthy plans, and you see, like, it's a problem, right? You're creating issues. But she decides to get right into it. This is Surreal. And she rescues the girl, and now they're running. But you got the city guards, all around them now. So we get another really good fight scene, and you can kind of see how seamlessly she blends with Missile, right? They're down. So the escape is on. And we can look at it that these guys were definitely, like, you're kind of celebrating a little too early here, and she senses that. Because, again, she's trained at a higher level of, right, stealth and movement. And then, of course, there's the city guard who's after him. So this is a big moment within this crew because we start to see them exactly as what they are. They're young, they got this reputation, but again, y'all do so much crazy stuff within it that you can't actually. And she's high. She says it. The girl says she's too high for this. That's the problem. You can't be getting high before we're about to do some important stuff. So that's kind of what she's dealing with, and you're not going to get away. They're on horseback. They're coming. So this is the moment, right, where she drops all the gold. Siri makes this decision to shoot out all the gold. That facilitates them getting away, right? So this is very important, but it creates a conflict moment between the Scott. Again, she is the new one. She's new in the crew. Now, this big bag of gold that we got, that we think we're about to escape with, all of a sudden, we don't have anymore. We're going to come back to it because that would be an important scene within this episode as we start to kind of develop who they are. So let's go on to the next scene. Now, this is another important scene in this episode. It's around the 16-minute mark. And let's get right into it. Okay. Get this queued up for you guys here. Okay, this is around 1633. This is back with Geralt and his kind of newly developing crew. And this is going to be an important moment because they meet this vampire character, right? This is Geralt, this is Jasselek, and the companions. They encounter this philosopher vampire. And this is going to be important. Now, this is a character that is played obviously by Lawrence Fishburne. I think impeccably done, but according to my wife, he's terrible. Okay, but this dialogue kind of introduces a real important piece of the lore, because we start talking about the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh elements as they complete this Picardy's early formation. So as we get introduced to this character, this is really core to their mythology, right? Because the fifth element is the ether. This is how he's going to break it down. The fifth element is the ether. This is life, and this is magic. The sixth element is going to be revealed as chaos, which is creative energy, and this is super important, and this is from the conjunction of the spheres, as everything came together. The seventh is order and harmony, and this is the alchemist's ideal balance of all these forces. So what we get is this vampire who Emil Regis, and what he calls himself as is a barber surgeon who does all this alchemy as well. So this guy's been alive for like 400 years. He has a very interesting tale, and this is a guy who, again, he says he smells like an apothecary shop, and he does, because this is what he does. So he, imagine you're adventuring. You don't get a lot of safe spaces, right, when you're out adventuring. Now, the interesting thing is this gets into some vampire lore and how it's told in this world. Because while we meet him here in the dark, he doesn't attack them as a vampire. What he's showing, when he goes and he does the whole scene where he invites them back to his dwelling. He has a hut or whatever he calls it here. And that's an important line, because he understands what he's telling them in a lot of ways. And he has a small cottage. He takes them back, and he really breaks it down. So all this stuff is going to be very important, because this is kind of developing Gerardt's kind of crew. He's always kind of been this loner, outside of the bar, who isn't a fighter. But he adds a lot more with this new addition that he's got. He adds some of the things I think are kind of core, to this genre, right? We get the dwarf fighters, we get the quasi elf, with the archer at least. So that kind of changes the dynamic, and it really kind of encompasses everything. This fight on all levels is not just about humans; it's about all the elves. So this is them going into the vampires' domicile here, right? And this is going to be very, very important. Now, he stays on guard. Everybody stays on guard, because they still understand. They're desperate. They need a place to go. They're hungry. That fire is looking good. But this is a vampire. So Gerardt looks at him as pretty much, on equal par. We're both very dangerous creatures. So the dialogue that comes between them is very natural. He's finding a counterbalance to himself. And this is what he says: I'm attempting to distill the fifth element. So again, this is very, very important, because again, that fifth element, now the director is introducing more of the myth and the lore into the series. Distilling all these fifth elements, this becomes very important. It kind of defines the universe itself, but it definitely defines where this particular vampire is on his journey. Because what he makes is an elixir, right, that tastes really good. The sixth element as well, right? And the seventh, right? And so that's where he's coming from. Now, they call it a divine elixir, and that's what it is. It's a heavenly mead. It's very important, because what this vampire is showing is, through his alchemy, it's his own progress. He goes from obviously being a vampire, and early on, the classic kind of vampire story, where he is, a slave to the lower elements, the flesh, the blood. He is moving up to higher ascendance, which is what their world all is. So he kind of embodies the entire philosophy of the world. His distillation symbolizes his transcendence beyond instinct. And this is what this world is founded on. So he and Geralt together, they both kind of represent a level of control, a level of resisting your instincts. They both were given all this power, but they know if they go too deep in it, what they really lose. So you really have two creatures who can identify with trying to fight to hold on to your humanity. And that's really what we see. So he offers all this to them for free, right? And we never see anyone this kind. Geralt gets a drink, and pretty soon, this kind of morphs into something else. So we get some symbolic parallels between the vampire and Geralt in that sense of like fighting your humanity, and both kind of being larger, fighting larger temptations for what they are. And that's super important. Now, the other thing that goes down is for this new crew, this becomes a real bonding moment. So we see all, the dwarf and Ed, I still call him Mickey because I remember when he was on Seinfeld. But now we got, the scene, like we're forging this fellowship together. We've got all these various parts together. So we're forging intellect, we're forging artistry. Some of them are built on, violence. But all these things are coming together in one group. So this is a very important moment, in the development. And I think we're going to see this kind of alliance go for it. It will be defining. Spoiler alert, I did watch ahead. But there's going to be some very important things that go on with this particular crew that we got to be watching. It's going to matter. What goes on with this crew, particularly this vampire, is going to matter later in the story. Definitely in the next couple episodes. Okay. So I want to get to this next part here, and this is another scene. Okay, so this is an important scene here because now we're back on Ciri, right? So this is important, right? The new part of the crew, and now she's getting chastised. Remember, she makes in the last scene their initial robbery, which is a failure, and I don't think because of her part. But this is about shifting the dynamic. And we're going to see her kind of assert some control, right? Because everybody's giving it to her, right? Everybody's on, like, why is everybody riding me today? They're all, and you see, she's not happy about it. She's taking all that criticism. They make the plan, right? And they're really, really, like, letting her have it, man. I mean, like, at every angle, right? They're letting her have it. Because they had a loosely formulated plan that ultimately didn't work. And we're starting to see that these guys, as nice as they are, these guys do embody impulsivity and chaos. And this is a contrast to everything that she's had in her training. Let's remember where she comes from. So she's trying to integrate these two parts. This desire for her that she's had early, like first season, we saw her really having this desire to be wild, to embrace like more of a street life. But instead, she was rewarded with like everything that you do is rooted in discipline, right? Her training in the castle, her life in the castle, everything that was about sacrifice was about duty. And then her training, of course, with Geralt. So she's a creature of discipline despite what she's always believed. So this is kind of a telling moment. But she sets them straight, and it's coming up here. This will be an important moment. See? And she speaks it out here. If it wasn't for me, you would have been captured and killed. Right? Glommed. But she's about to break him down. She's about to really get into that ass. Right? Okay, this is where she starts getting to them, right? She starts pointing them out individually what they do wrong. We remember the scene where he blows the door, where he has to blow the door. He throws a third one, which in the escape scene, they really could use that extra explosive, right? We saw that there. So that was a mistake, and she points that out, right? Where are you going next? Right? And again, like, right? That's your issue. You threw the tax collector out the window. Now everybody's watching. So the second mistake, right? So let's kind of keep going as she's breaking this down. Right? So she's breaking everybody down. Like, and it's for them, it's a little tougher to take, right? Obviously they don't want to, but they all kind of giggle it off. right? So she goes to everyone in the crew because, again, they lack her training. This is where she's kind of emerging out of this as an authority over the rats. This is where she's merging even within this lifestyle. The parts of her that she got from her training are the things that are going to be the most important. So we start to see her really kind of develop her own identity with and they kind of joke it off. That's kind of their style. But these two she would understand. So Missile would definitely understand. Now coming out of this, she kind of gains their respect. This is a crew that, despite everything that we see from them, they're kind of desperate for that leadership. And she's the one who is their best representation of that kind of leadership. I don't think any of them would choose this life if they had it, but when you're in this situation, now it all changes the dynamic. So what we get to see from Surreal at this point, I call this scene the Rat Master. You're at about 20 minutes in. It's only about a 3-minute scene, but it really defines kind of what her character arc is. And it is kind of funny that throughout all of that, fighting against being hated, you're hating how you grew up, that you're right back to enforcing that even on the chaos. So through most places in this world, chaos versus order is the biggest thing. Chaos versus a level of control or restraint. We saw it with Geralt and the vampire, where both of those gentlemen, the very powerful beings, were both exercising that level of control over their baser instincts. And then we see a scene like this, where this is really what that's all about these kids who live on the edge. They embrace the chaos, but you can't embrace it all. You can't, there's got to be a level of professionalism, and that's what they get. So this is symbolically her character arc really developing, and I really feel like this is Surreal kind of integrating her two parts, right? So this is really good. Now the next scene I want to get to really occurs right about the 27, we're at 27, 21, and this is an important scene for the mission, right, overall. Okay, this is it right here. Yeah, okay, come on. Okay, let me get to it, okay. Okay, this was, I'm just gonna, before I get into that scene, this is what I was talking about. This is where Geralt is saying there will always be a need for Witchers because of human behavior. So he doesn't fear killing all the monsters. It's a very real moment that he has with his vampire. And it's one of the few times that he gets to appear with someone where they understand really what he's going through. So it's a very, very revealing scene about Geralt and his ability to find a companion with this vampire. And his ability to accept monsters is more than just about accepting monsters, right? Okay, but this is the important scene, because this is back to Yennefer. And this is a great scene. I call it the Burrow, where she visits, you see who's there, man. Fringilla, right? Fringilla. Okay, I gotta get this character's name right. And this is an important moment because this is Yennefer is visiting Fringilla, Vigo, who is in exile at this point. And this scene serves as this reunion. Because again, because so much of the show is about chaos and order, that's what this scene is really all about. She's coming to her for help, and the fact that this is underground, this is an underground den, which serves as, the subconscious or room. It's a site of rebirth and confrontation with shadow. So we see, again, this is going back to what the elements of the story are. This is, Yennefer being Aether, which is the chaos-seeking freedom. And Fringilla, she is, when she's order, born of this subjugation, right? That's who she is. So, their relationship was never friendly. So this meeting represents what we see is ultimate harmony. That's really what we're getting to, is that she represents this sense of harmony with them coming together. So psychologically, we're also seeing a change in Yennefer. Yennefer has changed. There's a reason everybody in the continent hated her, because she was dirty, right? That was it. She was doing things, in a foul way. So now we get Yennefer is back as a strategist. She's evolved again, showing self-control herself, but not just that. She's showing true empathy. She understands her. She doesn't force her. She doesn't manipulate her. She speaks honestly with her. She tells her again she respects her power, and I need you. Right? This is about the task that they have together. Right? So again, she has to barter with her because she's already been exiled. So what does she really have to offer? And again, this is all about all these elements eventually coming together. You've been exiled. This is your opportunity for redemption. But obviously she's asking her to do something very, very dangerous. Right? So she knows who Volcaraz is and how powerful he is. And he's been trying to recruit her. So she knows. So she's giving her a lot of respect. She's bowing down her. She's getting past her own ego, which is very important. And now this story kind of reinforces this, this feminine alliance that they're gonna establish the early stages of a new trinity. Their contrast through magic really represents unity. And what you see here is she gives her a very important gift. Right, which was this blade, right? Let's see if I can get it back to. Right, again, listen to how she talks to her. Which she you can see it gets to her. So again, it's a different kind of manipulation, right? But again, she's changed her approach. So this is really, really different for Yennefer. And this is again, they have to unite to defeat, a very important question. So why would she do this? Now this is important. And I'm going to talk about this blade later. That is a very important implement that she's offering to him. And I'm going to talk about this blade in a separate piece because it deserves it. But this is a very important moment in trying to unify these two halves. Yennefer is starting to come full circle. Like, I'm telling you, man, by the end of season 2, I didn't even like Yennefer at all. And it's taken me this much time. But it's because how she's had to manifest as a different character. She's had to change her style. She's had to change what she's done because everything's on the line. So that's a very important scene. And like I said, I think this takes place around, this is around 27 minutes in. It's a short scene, but it's very important overall for developing the story, developing this alliance. And how she does it, I think, is just as important. Now, the last one I want to get into this episode, and this is a powerful scene. I am going to say that being back in season 4, the choreography for the fight scenes is insane. This is the best choreography that I've seen. It seems like it got better this season with the fight scenes. So let's get to this next scene. This is a little deeper into it, and I think extremely important scene. Right about, let's go back a little bit. This is a very important scene. Okay, I gotta get to this really quickly. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, this is okay. This is a good scene for you guys. It is a great scene right here. This is great. Hang on. It's right about the 48-minute mark of the film, and just another. I call it the forest ambush scene, or the revolt. Come on, let's get to it here. This is a girl, like she's submitting, right? She's joining in with the plan. So this is kind of a good segue in because this represents two sides of the half. Obviously, she's being very deceptive, but to get close to him. And again, passing this weapon, this is how she kind of earns her way in. So, again, crafty, she's a strategist. He's bowing into it a little bit. But this is the scene here that I really want to get into. Okay, this is an important scene. Yennefer, on her way through the forest again, she's on the mission. Diplomacy is where she at. And she sees something coming, right? And who is it? Kaboom. Guess who steps in the room? So it's 3 witches who are going to handle this business with her, right? And so we get another just incredible fight scene out of the, Yennefer versus these 3 here. It's just an incredible fight scene. But there's going to be more to it than this. Again, this is her getting a chance to flex her power. And these witches ain't no joke, man. All very powerful. And this is kind of pushing her. But again, the opposition knows that she's out trying to rally troops. This is why they're so dead. Now we get into it, right? And who do we see here? But this lovely witch right here. So again, this is very important. Let me pause this here because I want to get into this part of it. Now Francesca shows up on the scene. Now again, Francesca's one of them that she also did not like Yennefer. But what we're seeing is she's being ambushed, and Francesca is the savior. She comes in and she's like, we're about to throw this shit down. So let's keep the scene rolling here about what this. And so now the tide is changing. You just see how bad she is. She comes in, sucking the magic out of homie. Like, her power is real. Right? You see them instantly kind of wilting. Together, with these 2 together, they can't stand up against. Yeah, it's trouble time, girl. Yeah, look at that. Look at that face, man. Look at the confidence in this. Look at that, man. If she's looking at you like that, it's already done. So what we're seeing in this combat style is all these elements together. You're seeing the ether against the fire, against the earth, against the air. All these things are coming together. So like I was talking about earlier, when we talked about the ether, why this is so important, because this is foundational to the series. So if you're really going to get into the series, you got to get into this part. So you see her like losing it, right? And this is it right here. This is a cold-blooded shot. That's a cold-blooded shot right there, man. That's it right there. Those 2 together. Now we just saw. Now this is obviously Yennefer and Francesca. We got Fragilia, who is also working this. So we're starting to see the manifestation of this triad. Now, Francesca's importance is that she represents this nature's restoration process. You see, she takes on the bird form when she swoops in, and she's really more of the natural element, kind of combining with Yennefer's control chaos. And again, this is kind of getting into Gaia, Osset, or Isis is really kind of Francesca kind of being Gaia, and Yennefer being more Osset, Isis. So that powerful magic combining with the natural element. So we're seeing this old school idea. Now they're putting away their old ideologies, which you would have never seen this before, because it was envy, rivalry, and this kind of unintegrated chaos. So they weren't fully integrated, which is what made them weak in the first place. So now what we're seeing is this arc of discipline variance, a lot more control, physical manifestation of prior introspection. Right, this is a lesson that she had learned in the Burrow. So we're seeing Yennefer, again, driven by her desire, her true core love, is that she wants to make this all right by any means necessary. And seeing this right here, seeing the combining of this power, man, that was the best thing we could have seen in terms of if you're on this side, right? The combining this power, the forging of this triad, and this is what all this stuff means. So a lot of symbolism, a lot of meaning in the second episode. I'll get deeper into it. I just did a review, a reaction to the first episode, and tomorrow I'll probably dig into episode 3, which I've already watched and has some great meaning. There's a couple of things I'm going to talk about probably in a separate video. I will talk about that Duridium blade and what that means, because it's primarily there to nullify magic. So it's very important. How that's going to surface later in the series, I'm not quite sure, but we do see that it's going to be very important, or how much value it has to the people on the screen. So I'm going to dip out now. Thanks for stopping in. Always, I ask that you hit that like and subscribe to the channel, and check out my YouTube channel if you enjoy like the longer previews of the video, longer versions of the videos.